Now, according to the syllabus, we finish Azkaban today. Hopefully you watched the videos over the break. If you didn't, you can catch up. I'm going to kind of try to cover a bunch of this today. The expecto patronum charm, first of all, that Lupin teaches Harry. Why does he teach him this again? Because of the Dementors. What effect do the Dementors have on Harry? Yeah, I mean, Lupin says they suck out all joy from your life. Okay? Think of that word for a moment. Dementor, not Dementor. You're familiar with at least that part. Because, I mean, that's an everyday normal word in the English language. You might not have mentors on campus, but you have an advisor. It's the same thing. Well, what's the difference between advisor, sometimes with an E, and dementor? They both, obviously, they come from Latin. Prefix, okay, root, ending. The ending for both of these is an indication of agency. It means male, one who does this. If it were a feminine ending, it would be dementress and advisoress. Okay? R-E-S-S, like actress. It's not sexist. That is a literal feminine ending on the word that indicates a feminine agent of whatever that is. Okay? So, that's indicating agency. Okay? D means out of or away from. Ad means to. Vis comes from visio, means to see. So an advisor is one who advises you because why?
They can see something you don't.
They see something you don't. Typically, it's because an advisor what? Hopefully. Has been around the block a few times. They've experienced more than you've had. They can have a longer term vision. What can an advisor not see, however?
What's going on in your mind?
Okay, what's going on in your mind? What else? Very closely related to what Quinn just said. They can't see perfectly for you. Why? They're not you. That's it. So no matter how wise an advisor is, an advisor cannot see perfectly what is your best path in life. Only you can do that. All right? What's this?
That has to do with like the mind, doesn't it?
Bingo. Okay? Mind. Thought. So a mentor is one who minds you, one who thoughts you. That is, they are someone who adds to, increases, builds up your mind, supposedly. Okay? So you take that, and it's just the opposite. Someone who decreases your thought, someone who decreases your mind, someone who doesn't build you up. And Dementor is someone who says you're a lousy piece of shit and you'll never amount to anything your entire life, every day, from the moment you're born. Yeah, that sucks the joy out of your life, right? This person is supposed to increase your joy. Now, if you had an mentor, then that would be the person who builds you up and such. So, Harry has problems with these. Why? What's the joy they suck out of his life? Even though that's what Lupin says, do they really for Harry? No. What do they enable Harry to do?
Hear his parents.
He hears his parents. And in fact, there's one point when Harry's thinking about this thing, and he's like, but if I do this, I'll never hear my parents' voices again. That is a source of lack of joy. Because now he at least hears them. He doesn't remember any positive memories of hearing his parents' voices. The only times he hears his parents' voices are what? Every time he comes up to a Dementor, or we're going to see later, certain things, he goes farther and farther back into these memories. Okay? So, Lupin teaches him Expecto Patronum to do what?
Guard against it.
Guard against them. What is it supposed to do? The Expecto Patronum is supposed to produce what? What? A Patronus. Okay? What's the Patronus? This thing. Like a patron saint. What's a patron saint supposed to do? Protect. Okay? Defend. Guard. Save. Etc. So, Expecto Patronum, where's that Patronum come from? It comes from in here. Which one?
Oh, under
Chest. Pec.
or pec.
Pectoral muscles. It's out of, that's the one that we had up there, out of in D, the X and D, they're the same, have the same meaning. So, out of the chest, a savior, protector, guardian. Why? What's in the chest?
The heart.
Bingo. What did Hermione tell Harry just before Harry goes through the potion test that Hermione, solves for him back at the end of the first book? She says something about, brains and stuff, and Harry goes, come on, Hermione, you're the smartest. And she goes, oh, books and cleverness and such. There's so much more, Harry, than that, friendship and loyalty and love. And Harry's got heart in spades. In fact, beginning of the next book, we're going to see in the first defense against the dark arts class that they have with Mad-Eye Moody, Harry's able to do what? He puts off one of the 3 unforgivable curses. That is, he's able to fight it. And Mad-Eye tells us there's a reason Harry can. Strength of character. It's this. Okay? So, Lupin teaches him this so that he can keep those Dementors at bay. Because what happens when he hears his parents' voice? He loses all control, right? I mean, what happens when he's in the one Quidditch match? And about 100 Dementors look up at him. He passes out. Yeah. Okay. So, go from there to the 40 or so minutes we have left. 37 minutes. Go to chapter 17. Okay. Skipping a whole lot, which, as I said, hopefully you watch some. Let me back up for just a moment. Who's the new defense against the dark arts class? Teacher. Lupin. Describe Lupin.
Gaunt.
Gaunt.
Ragged.
Ragged.
Introverted.
Introverted. Okay, see, from my perspective, these are all probably, more or less good things. He's not fat, he's not flabby, and he's not overly gregarious. My kind of person. Okay?
He's gone a lot.
Their last one.
Yeah.
He's gone a lot.
The werewolf.
Okay? He's a werewolf, we discover at the end of the novel. Okay, yeah, spoiler alert, sorry if you didn't finish it. He's a werewolf. Okay? What about his teaching ability? He's a great teacher. I mean, how cool would it be to have a werewolf for a teacher? Okay. But he's a great teacher. Compared to
Quirrell.
Lockhart.
And Lockhart.
Quirrell and Lockhart. Failure A and failure B. Okay? Is it only compared to those two? What about compare his teaching ability with, say, Snape?
He's warmer.
He's warmer. He's a nice
Yeah,
person.
he gets along with the students a lot.
Gets along with students. Snape, you could tell, hates students. Okay? Which, I have a certain affinity for Snape also, for some students, but, I mean, he comes in and does what? If you're not as bunch of big a pack of dunderheads as I usually have. Because he has people who don't, Okay? What else about Lupin? Okay, friends with Harry's friends. I think Quinn might have said it. What adjective would you use to describe him? Keep going. He's kind of cool.
he's not afraid to like teach like he taught Harry that like he's not afraid to teach him more than they like.
He teaches Harry this. Harry's in his 3rd year. Before he teaches him this, he says, okay, I know something that might help you. But man, it's what? It's really advanced magic. In fact, he says it's so advanced magic, there are a lot of fully qualified wizards who cannot do this. Now, what does fully qualified wizards mean? And witches, by the way.
Graduated school.
They finished high school. Hogwarts is essentially junior high and high school. Okay? But it's more than that. It's like people who've been out of school for years. Book 5. Book 5? Book 7. In one of the later books, boy, I can't remember which. It's 6, I think. It's either 5 or 6. Molly Weasley can't do this. She keeps seeing a boggart. Okay. No, it's book 5. She keeps seeing a boggart, and the boggart keeps taking on the form. What do boggarts do?
They change into your fear.
They change into your worst fear. Okay. Let's go around. No. And her worst fear is what? Arthur dead. George dead. Percy dead. Bill dead. Charlie dead. Fred dead. Ron dead. Ginny dead. Harry dead. And she's trying, and she can't do it. What does that tell us?
She's extremely loving towards her family, and it was hard for her.
Okay, it could be that. I mean, these are family members plus Harry.
You have to be really skilled to learn that.
It takes strength of character. Okay? Book 5, jumping way ahead. Sorry for those of you who may not know. We'll leave it at the end of this book. Book 5 is titled Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. What was the Order of the Phoenix? That was the group of wizards who joined with Dumbledore in the past to stop Voldemort in his rise to power. The Weasleys weren't in it. Harry's parents were. Hagrid was. Why weren't the Weasleys?
They're not very skilled.
Is it that they're not very skilled?
Or they're not strong enough.
Because in the 5th book, they are in the Order of the Phoenix. They're central. Bellatrix.
Bellatrix, yeah.
Yeah.
Only kills
Yeah. We'll hold that one for later. Okay? So, the thing is, Harry learns this at the age of 13. When there's people who are 30 who can't do it. Okay? Yeah.
It was the ridiculous charm that Expected Patronus she was using against the boggart, but it wasn't working.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you. But she can't even use the ridiculous charm, which is not an advanced form. Because who uses the ridiculous charm? Is it their first defense against the Dark Arts class? It's pretty soon.
Neville.
Neville does. Against whom?
Snape.
Well, not just Snape. A mixture of his, take Snape and his grandmother and have sex between them and put a byproduct. I mean, that's about the scariest thing in the world there is for Neville. And it's gone. Okay, what's the difference between that and the situation with Molly Weasley? Okay, this one's much more serious. This one's a quote-unquote controlled environment. I mean, if Neville can't do it, you've always got Lupin back there. Okay, but notice in this one, the one in the classroom, Harry doesn't get to do anything there. Okay, he doesn't get to go up against the boggart. And we won't go into that because we're getting way beyond where I need to. Okay, so pick up with chapter 332, okay, which is right after Trelawney's prediction. Okay, Harry's in divination. Should I say anything about divination? He's in divination. He's taking his exam, and he essentially falls asleep. Why? What is divination worth?
Not much.
Not much, nothing.
If you don't have the gift, it's worthless.
If you don't have the gift, it's worthless.
Yeah, the gift is not going to do much either.
Okay. Does Sybil Trelawney have the gift?
Not really.
Sort of, but she
Both
doesn't really
yes and
have
no.
sight, like the way to interpret it that way.
Okay.
Apparently her mom
I think
was
she
grandma.
has moments of genuine divination and moments of being kind of fake.
Dumbledore is going to tell Harry, I ought to increase her pay. That's 2 prophecies she has made that have been accurate. In how long? This is in the 5th book. In 15 years. It's in the 3rd book. So still 14 years.
Yeah.
2 in 14 years.
But she's not conscious when she says the true prophecies.
Because what does she do when Harry first goes up to her first class? One of you will leave. One of you will no longer be with us. And what has she done every year since she started teaching? She's prophesied the death of a student. How many students have died?
She's like, eventually.
No, she prophesies one every year. They don't happen. Okay? In terms of the Old Testament, there are a couple of criteria for being a prophet. You want to know what one of them is? 100% accuracy. If it's a foretelling, because prophets do 2 things. They tell forth, they speak the truth now, or they foretell, they tell the future. Okay? If they're telling the future, they got to be right all the time. Okay? If they're telling the truth now, they can never be lying. Guess what she does? She does both. That is, she lies and she doesn't tell the accurate future. Okay? There are 2 instances where she does tell what's going to happen in the future. Okay? And they become really, really important. This is one where she says, see, Travis, on page 324, the Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, but notice what happens. She looks as though she was about to have some sort of seizure. Harry hesitates, and then Trelawney speaks again. Okay? She'd gone rigid, her eyes are unfocused, her mouth is sagging. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free, set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with the servant's aid, greater and more terrible than ever he was. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will set out to rejoin his master, and then tonight before, and it just kind of replays. Okay. Harry tells her what she said, and she says, "Oh dear boy, I've never, predict anything so preposterous." In other words, she indicates some of what she predicts is preposterous. Okay. So just let that prophecy hang there. Cat, rat, and dog. They go into the Whomping Willow. Why? Why do Harry and Hermione go into the Whomping Willow? Because a big black dog took Ron. Okay. Why did the big black dog take Ron? Because Ron was hanging on to a rat, which he thought was dead. What was the rat's name? Scabbers. Why did he think Scabbers was dead?
They found I think it was like
Crookshanks,
a cat fur.
cat
And
took
then
it.
Scabbers.
Yeah.
There's cat fur. They thought Crookshanks, Hermione's cat, killed Scabbers, which is why Ron and Hermione had a spat and weren't talking to each other for most of the year. So he discovers Scabbers is still alive. Okay. And Big Black Dog takes him through the Whomping Willow. So they go through the Whomping Willow and they come up where?
Shrieking Shack.
Into the Shrieking Shack. Why is it called the Shrieking Shack? Because it is the most haunted place in all of England. Because of the sounds that come from it. What were the sounds that came from it all those years ago?
The werewolf in there fighting himself.
Okay. So, they get in there, they see Ron on a big 4-poster bed. And let's see here. 339. 338, 339. They go in, there's Ron. Ron says he's the dog, he's an animagus. They don't know who Ron's talking about. Harry turns around, and there's Sirius Black. Now, where have we seen Sirius Black before?
Wanted posters.
Wanted posters, beginning of the novel, right? Newspaper and TV. Newspaper again on the night bus. Okay. Dumbledore warns students, don't go into the Forbidden Forest, don't use any of the secret passages. That's why there's Dementors, etc., etc. What's so bad about Sirius Black? Killed 13 muggles. Okay. What does Harry overhear about Sirius Black at the Three Broomsticks? He betrayed his parents. He killed his parents. He overhears Sirius Black was the secret keeper. Sirius Black. Who else? Peter Pettigrew. James Potter. We're all what? Best friends back in school. In Lupin. Okay? Bear in mind, who is telling that when Harry overhears it?
Fudge?
Fudge. And where?
In the Three Broomsticks.
In a pub. Isn't that kind of, national secret stuff? The stuff about Black? Yeah, it is.
Someone said he was competent.
I don't think anybody would ever say Cornelius Fudge is competent. There's a reason why she names him Fudge. Okay? Because he fudges things. So, Black uses Expelliarmus on Harry and Ron, gets their wands. On Harry and Hermione, excuse me. He says, I thought you'd come help your friend. And Ron says, page 339, if you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too. Lie down. You will damage that leg even more. Now, what should just that one sentence tell them?
He doesn't want to hurt anyone.
He doesn't want to hurt anyone. I mean, if he's going to kill him, what does he care if he's in more pain, Crucio, zap him a bit, okay? So, Sirius Black says there will be only one murder here tonight. Harry, why? You didn't care last time. What? You gone soft in Azkaban? Hermione says, Harry, be quiet. Why does Hermione tell Harry to be quiet?
Because he's egging him on, basically.
The guy's pointing a wand at him and Harry's antagonizing him. You don't antagonize a known serial murderer. Okay?
Classic Harry move.
Classic Harry move. He had forgotten about magic. Middle of 340. He had forgotten that he was short and skinny and 13, whereas Black was a tall, full-grown man. All Harry knew was that he wanted to hurt Black as badly as he could, and that he didn't care much about how he got hurt in return. Now, pause for a moment. Kind of go back to some of this, where Lupin is teaching Harry the Expecto Patronum charm, and he's teaching him about Dementors. What else does he say about Dementors? Being near them will suck all the joy out of your life. What else? Bring up your worst memories. Dementor's kiss. What's it do?
Suck the soul.
You suck the soul out of it. And Harry's like, well, that's not so bad. You'd still be alive. And Lupin points out what? Well, yeah, you'd be alive, but you'd be what?
Shell.
A shell, a husk of a person. Permanent vegetative state. Okay? And Harry says, that's what Black has coming. And Lupin's like, really, Harry? Man, that's pretty. You hear that echo of Gandalf's voice? When Frodo says, he deserves death. And Gandalf says, deserves it, I dare say he does. Many that die deserve to live, and many that live deserve death. Can you give it to them, Harry? Then be not too eager to deal out death and judgment, etc., etc. So, Harry attacks. They get the wands back from Black. And Harry, wants to zap Sirius, page 341. Sirius, now sprawled against the bottom of the wall, says, "Going to kill me, Harry?" Would Harry know how?
No.
At this point, no. He doesn't even know the Avada Kedavra charm. That is, he doesn't know what it is. He hears about it in the beginning of the next book, the first lesson with Mad-Eye Moody. And Mad-Eye Moody shows them what it looks like. And Harry, we're told, Harry thinks, oh, so that's what it was like when my parents died. So, Harry stops. You killed my parents. Now, Dick Inigo Montoya, prepared to die, Black, I don't deny it. Notice, did get to the end of the novel. Did he kill Harry's parents? No, he did not. So why does he say I don't deny it?
He feels guilty about it.
But you want to know the whole story? Harry, I don't need the whole story. You sold them to Voldemort. He says, no, you got to hear it. You got to hear it. You'll regret it if you don't. So what story does he tell them? Well, they hear a noise. Hermione says, we're up here. Lupin comes in, and notice what he says. Where is he, Sirius? And Hermione's like, what? I've kept your secret all year long. $346. Okay. No, actually, let's go on a little bit more. Lupin tells them, or Black, I can't remember which one, tells them about, Lupin does, about what he saw on the Marauders map. 347. The Marauders map. I was in my office examining it. How did Lupin get the Marauders map? He confiscated it from Harry when Harry went into Hogsmeade, got caught, got in trouble with. Yeah, I mean, he confiscated it. I mean, Snape looked at it and saw what? Because Snape didn't know how it worked. Okay? So he doesn't really confiscate it from Snape. I mean, he kind of says, I know who the owners are, And what does he tell Harry? Map doesn't lie. Harry, you know how to work it? Yeah, I'm Mooney. Yes. And I saw you might have been wearing your father's cloak. How do you know about that? And he goes on and explains. So he says, Peter Pettigrew is an animagus. Why is that important? Who knows about animagi? Okay. He says, I saw as he pulled two of you into the Whopping Willow. Ron's like, no, just one. No, two. And he points out he's an animagus. Ron, you're mental. Peter Pettigrew's dead, said Harry. He killed him 12 years ago. He pointed at Black. I meant to. Okay. Black's just itching, so Lupin says no. How did Sirius know Peter Pettigrew was alive? Where'd he get the newspaper? He asked Fudge for the newspaper on Fudge's last visit because he saw the paper sticking out of his pocket and there was a picture of the Weasleys. Now, shouldn't Fudge have thought something about that? What happens to everybody when they go to Azkaban? Why? Because the Dementors. Kind of gives you a little bit more understanding of why Hagrid did not want to go back to Azkaban. Okay? So, he takes the newspaper, and what does he start to say? Lupin, Black.
He's at Hogwarts.
He's there. He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts. Who does Fudge assume that means? Okay. So, Ron, page 350, he's not Peter. He's Scabbers. And And Harry says, but people saw Pettigrew die. Whole street full of them. They didn't see what they thought they saw. Harry read a book once. That book wasn't what he thought it was it? Might Rowling be suggesting that we can't always trust our senses? That sometimes our senses, our eyes, might lie to us? That is, we might not see what we think we see? Or we might not hear what we think we hear? Or maybe that the recollection of what we thought we saw is not the same as what we saw. Or the recollection of what we thought we heard might not be what we heard. Okay? So Hermione says, but it can't be true. Why does she say it can't be true that Peter Pettigrew would be an animagus?
Because there's a registry.
Because there's a registry and he's not in it. In other words, there's something written down. And for Hermione, if it's written down, it's, gospel truth. Okay? She says, I looked it up. McGonagall's on the register. He's not. He goes, you're right. But the ministry never knew, top of 352, there were 3 unregistered animagi. Not just 1, 3. Sirius is going, come on, hurry up. Okay? So he explains what happened all those years ago when he came to Hogwarts. First of all, why was he allowed to go to Hogwarts? Because of Dumbledore. Because when he came to Hogwarts, he was already a werewolf, right? Dumbledore said, don't worry, we can work around that. So what happened?
They planted the Whomping Willow.
They plant the Whomping Willow. And Dumbledore creates a safe haven where Lupin can go once a month and go werewolfy, So, Lupin makes good friends, notice, his first year with James, Sirius, and Peter. Right? So they go on. He says, my transformations were terrible. And what does he mean by terrible? Bottom of 353. Very painful to turn into a werewolf. I was separated from humans to bite. So I bit and scratched myself instead. The villagers heard the noise. Dumbledore encouraged the rumor, blah, 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 blah. He says, but apart from that, once a full moon, happier than I'd ever been. I had great friends. They noticed what happened. He says, they became animagi. Took them the best part of 3 years to work out how to do it. When did they work it out? Your father and Sirius here were the cleverest students in the school, middle of 354. Finally, in our 5th year, they managed it. So when did they start learning it? 2nd year. When they were 12. But notice they manage it 3 years later, at the age of 15. Now, how serious a magic is the animagi, whatever it
Very
is?
advanced. It was 7 in the past century.
Okay? Including McGonagall. McGonagall's been Transfiguration teacher, we find out in the 5th book, for 49 years. She's old, by the way. Not as old as Dumbledore, but she's old. Okay? So Hermione's like, well, how did that help? He said, they could keep me company. As animagi, they could keep me company. Does that lessen the pain of becoming a werewolf? Yeah, I mean, he could go off and do doggy things with the dogs and the stag and the rat. Okay? What does lessen the pain?
The Wolfsbane potion.
The Wolfsbane potion. Wolf's Bane. Bane means death. The Wolf's death potion. What happens if he takes the potion?
He just curls up.
He's like a German Shepherd. He just curls up and sleeps. And who's been making the potion since the beginning of the year? Could Snape, oops. Could Snape make a mistake? Yes, he could. Why doesn't he? Is it because Dumbledore's got his eye always on him?
He's not inherently evil.
He's not inherently evil. Is he not nice?
He's just
Yes.
an asshole.
Is he a dirty SOB? Yes. Is he evil? No. There's a huge difference between being a rotten person and an evil person. In fact, Sirius is going to make that exact same point in the next book. So, Black's looking at his watch going, come on. So, they make Peter Pettigrew transform. But not until Snape comes up. And what happens when Snape comes up? He sees Lupin, he sees Black, and what does he assume? You've been helping him in. You were good friends back then. You know, you're a werewolf, so you can't be trusted anyways. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione do what? They try to reason with him. Snape's not open to reason. Why? Because Harry tells him to shut up, that you never liked my father. And then they used an Expelliarmus charm. They shoot their teacher. I mean, that's a way of looking at it. Okay? So, now that they have Snape knocked out, we can hear the rest of the story. So, Black explains what actually happened on that street corner all those years ago. Page 363. When I cornered him, he yelled for the whole street to hear that I'd betrayed Lily and James. Then, before I could curse him, he blew apart the street with the wand behind his back, killed everyone within 20 feet of himself, sped down the sewer with the other rats. Didn't you ever hear? Lupin says the biggest bit of Peter they found was his finger. And what is Scabbers missing?
Toe.
A toe. Okay? So, they make him reveal himself, and what does he do? He begs for mercy from Sirius first. No go there. Lupin, no go there. And then Harry. Okay. Page 368. Pettigrew says, when Sirius says, scared to hear your old master's name? I don't blame you, Peter. His lot aren't very happy with you, are they? Don't know what you mean, Peter. Black says, you haven't been hiding from me for 12 years. 12 years, what did the prophecy say? The Dark Lord's servant chained these 12 years will be released before midnight. Okay. I heard things in Azkaban, Peter. They think you're all dead. I've heard them screaming all sorts of things. Sounds like they think the double-crosser double-crossed them. Voldemort went to the Potters on your information, and that's where he met his downfall, etc., etc. Okay? Skip a bit. Page 370. Hermione asks, if he's working for you-know-who, how come he never tried to hurt Harry before now? After all, where's Peter Pettigrew lived during the school year for the last 3 years?
Same room.
Same dormitory room as Harry. He says, good idea, good. Mm-hmm. And Black says, I'll tell you why. Because you never did anything for anyone unless you could see what was in it for you. Voldemort's been in hiding for 15 years. No. Error. That's wrong. How long's Voldemort been in hiding for? How old is Harry? When did Voldemort try to kill Harry? When he was 1 year and 3 months old. He's only been in hiding that long. Okay? He was at the height of his power before then. So, he says, you'd want to be quite sure he was the biggest bully in the playground before you went back to him, wouldn't you? Why else did you find a wizarding family to take you in? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, Lupin says, oh, why didn't you go crazy in Azkaban? And Sirius says, 371, I knew I was innocent. That wasn't a happy thought. That is, you can't take that away from me. Imagine being, as we've had over the last 10, 15 years, probably scores of cases of this happening. A guy gets arrested and sent to prison for 20 years for rape. And then new DNA evidence proves wasn't me. After 20 years, or murder. And after 20 years. Well, Sirius is there tonight for what reason? He says, I'm going to do the murder I did the time for. Okay? So, then Peter appeals to Harry. 374. And Black says, how dare you? How dare you talk to him like that? And Pettigrew says, Harry, he, meaning James, would have shown me mercy. You sold Lily and James to Voldemort. Sirius says, do you deny it? What could I have done? You have no idea. He has weapons you can't imagine. I was scared, Sirius. I was never brave like you and Remus and James. You gotta wonder, what did those three see in Peter Pettigrew that allowed him to be their friend?
He was little, so he touched the notch on the tree.
Is that it? Because they only need that, So, he says, I never meant it to happen. And then Peter Pettigrew says, what was there to be gained by refusing him? Well, what did Sirius just accuse him of? You never did anything unless what? There was something in it for you. So, what would have been in it for me if I refused Voldemort? And then, as Rowling likes to do so often, she has Black interpret Peter Pettigrew's words and put them in his own language. What was there to be gained by fighting the most evil wizard who has ever existed? Notice, what was there to be gained by refusing him? What does Sirius's retelling of that question add into it? What was there to be gained by fighting, not refusing, fighting the most evil wizard who has ever existed? See, that's the import. That's the key significant difference. Because he was the most evil wizard who ever lived. That's why you should have fought him. Only innocent lives, Peter. Whose? Well, how about the 13 Muggles? What about Lily and James? What about Harry? Harry's not dead, but, you don't understand. He would have killed me, Sirius. Then you should have died. Died rather than betray your friends. And notice what Sirius adds. Now, Sirius is adding this 13 years after the event. As we would have done for you. We would have died for you, Peter, Sirius is saying. Okay? Peter's like, he would have killed me. Then you should have died. Why? Go back to Dumbledore's comments at the end of the first book. What is Sirius telling us? That both now and 13 years previously, he and Lupin and James all what? Had well-organized minds. What does Dumbledore say? To the well-organized mind, death is what? The next great adventure. That is, it is not something to be feared. So why do we fear death? Harry's going to have this conversation with Dumbledore. Why we fear death? Well, famous philosopher dealt with that issue about 2,500 years ago. His name was Plato. He was talking to his mentor, Socrates. Socrates was in the process of dying. he had already drunk the hemlock that he'd been sentenced to drink by the Athenian Senate. Why was he sentenced to drink hemlock? Because they accused him and found him guilty of leading the youth of Athens astray. Why? Because he told them to channel the modern day bumper sticker, question authority. He taught them to question everything. He also taught them this belief in a pantheon of gods was a bunch of nonsense. If there is a God, there's only one God, the supreme good kind of a thing. Okay? So, he's convicted. He drinks, before he drinks the hemlock, his followers, Plato and a handful of others, come to him and they say, we've bought off the guards. You can leave Athens and live and die a natural old age. And he says, one, I'm not going to do that because if I left Athens, I would no longer be an Athenian, which would mean I would be no one. See, the place you lived and were born into, that was your identity. Okay? And he said, two, why should I be afraid of death? And they're like, what? He says, death is the unknown. We fear things that are known. Or we should fear things that are known. What lies beyond death? Nobody knows. So why fear that? How many of you are afraid, Travis just did a couple of minutes ago, how many of you are afraid to walk out that door right now? I bet nobody is. And yet none of you know what is outside that door right now. Not know. You think you know because you've been in that hallway. But you've not been outside that door in the last 20, 30, 40 minutes. What could, theoretically, possibly, be outside that door? There could be some deranged college student. Happens every freaking year. Okay? Happened about 10 years ago at Virginia Tech. 32 students. Why? Because some guy got hacked off over some stupid reason. Theoretically, that could be getting ready to happen in the next 5 minutes. That's unknown, whether it will or not. But if I said, okay, we're done, you don't be out there in 20 seconds. Okay? That is Socrates' whole point. We don't fear the unknown, so why fear death? It's unknown. Okay? So, Sirius says, we would have died for you. That is, we would have allowed ourselves to be killed rather than you. We would have protected you, Peter. Lupin. And then you should have realized, if Voldemort didn't kill you, we would. All right? Only to have Harry stop them. Why?
Because they're absolved if they bring Peter back alive. Sirius is no longer a guilty person.
Sirius is no longer guilty if Peter Pettigrew is still alive. Okay? Why else?
He doesn't want his dad's friends to be murdered.
He says, I don't want my father's friends to turn into murderers. Now, Harry doesn't know at this point. He won't find out until the 6th book. What murder does to the person who commits murder. Because the 6th book tells us, when you kill somebody else, you do something to yourself. Okay? This is an element, an introduction almost, that Rowling gives us to this idea that Harry stops people from harming themselves.
The Messiah complex, sort of?
Partially. What is Harry's classic defensive move? Louder?
Disarming.
Disarming. The Latin phrase is expelliarmus, to expel the arms. Now, it's not literally. It's removing, however, one's weapons. Why? And I'm told, former student and friend of mine, who was I always forget the martial arts, that this is part of.
Correct.
Which one?
Taekwondo.
No.
Frog.
No. It starts with a T. T or a J. No, it's not Taekwondo. Anyway, that's not Tai Chi.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Nope.
That's not
Anyways, it's one where the whole purpose is to disarm your opponent for the purpose of protecting your opponent. Why are you protecting your opponent? So that you then don't have to use a killer move. So it's a protection on that individual. All right? Well, that's what Harry does constantly. In fact, we're going to see in book 5, his closest friends are going, Harry, what the hell? This isn't child's play anymore. They're trying to kill you. Stop them. And he's going to say at one point, if I had stopped so-and-so, when he tried to harm me, he would have fallen several hundred feet and died. That would have been on me. Yeah, but he was... In fact, Harry's even going to tell Dumbledore, I can't kill anybody. And Dumbledore's like, well, shit. We are totally screwed then. I mean, because if you can't do this, then... Okay. But it's kind of facetious. Okay. So... Harry says, we'll take him up. We'll turn him over to the authorities. All right? And they do. As they're making their way back up to the school, what do Harry and Sirius talk about?
Moving in.
Moving in. In other words, Harry will be able to get what?
Away from the Dursleys.
Away from the Dursleys. There's a happy thought.
Family. Oh,
He'll have his family of sorts. What else? He'll never have to go back to the Dursleys. He'll get his stupid Hogsmeade form signed. Okay. Another happy thought, Only to have what happen? The moon comes out from behind the clouds and Sirius goes, Lupin goes crazy. And what do we see Harry do? Not all the way at the end, but towards the end. Who does he think is doing it? His father. Okay. So, cut to the chase. He rescues Sirius and Buckbeak. Dumbledore says, you can save 2 lives tonight. Harry doesn't have a clue what Dumbledore's talking about. He and Hermione go off into the hospital room, and what happens? What's the problem with he tells her 3 turns how to do it.
How far back she could go.
Anytime any writer introduces time travel into a story, you enter the time travel paradox. If you can go back 3 hours and rescue Sirius and Buckbeak, what else can you do within the constraints of this novel? This novel. Not anything she has since said in Pottermore, because she's come up with a reason. In Pottermore, but not in any of the other novels. Okay,
Go back
that
and
explains
save
it.
Lily and James.
Go back and save Lily and James. Go back. Let's go to book 6 and 7 for a moment. Go back to when Voldemort's mother is pregnant with him. Abort the little bastard. You go back even farther. What? Stop her from using a love potion on this human that she falls in love with.
what'd she say in Pottermore?
Go all the way back to the Garden of Eden if you want. Chop the head off the snake.
But aren't the time travelers heavily regulated to use?
And then they were destroyed in book 5.
Well, they're not regulated in the sense that, she and Harry off in the room and she can only turn it back 3. It's the fact that, 1, she has one and she's a 3rd-year student. And Dumbledore got the Ministry of Magic to sign off on that. That's one problem. 2, because there aren't any constraints said in this or the other 3 remaining 3 or 4 novels, why not go all the way back? Why not stop the problem from the beginning? I mean, that's a paradox. If you introduce a time travel thing, that you always have to have that kind of question comes up. Yes?
What did she say in Pottermore?
She said, that they could only go back, I think it was 20 years. But even still, go back 20 years, he could save James and Lily. He could stop Peter Pettigrew from doing that. Okay. So maybe it wasn't 20 years. Maybe it was 5 years.
She could have saved herself better if she said that the other side had time turners too, or something.
Or she could have said, oops.
Yeah, yeah.
Because almost every sci-fi writer, I mean, they admit, whenever you talk about quote-unquote time travel, you create problems.
Okay,
Okay?
that's why she destroyed them in the fifth book.
Did you destroy them in the fifth book?
When they're in the Ministry of Magic, they like knock.
I don't think they destroy all the time turners.
I
They
thought they
destroy
talked about
a
it.
time turner.
Well, I thought they talked about it at one point because they like knocked over a big chest of like the Ministry's time, like not all in the world, but all the Ministry had. And then
Yeah.
they said like they
I remember the glass
I
orb
don't
shattering.
think so. I mean, they do the Hall of Prophecy. They knock over a bunch of prophecies. And those are all destroyed. The time turner is the one when the one guy gets knocked into it. And he's a baby, and he's a man, and he's a baby, and he's a man.
Yeah.
Keeps going back and forth. I don't think there are any others. Okay, we will stop there. So, actually on Wednesday, I'll go over Dumbledore's debriefing of Harry briefly. And then Goblet of Fire. So about the first, I don't know, fourth, which is 170, about 180 pages or so.